Cowboy Bebop is amazing, and I do not care what you think, is probably what I would have said if this was just a tweet or a 6-second TikTok. But I'm not gonna do that to you. I'm going to actually explain why I think the way I do and why I love Cowboy Bebop. It's that one anime that I feel like everyone from all demographics can love. You don't have to be an anime fan to enjoy the show. When Shinichiro Watanabe's Cowboy Bebop first premiered in Japan in 1998, initially broadcasting only 8 episodes because of its violent content, no one, I mean no one could have predicted the lasting impression it would have 20 years later. IMDb ranks it as the greatest anime series of all time, and with a new Netflix live-action reboot announced in November, why not talk about the legacy of this really strange anime, and why I think it's just amazing. The series takes place in the future of 2071, where mankind now lives on other planets across the galaxy. The crime rate is high, so the government has legalized bounty hunters, also known as cowboys, to trace criminals and collect rewards as payment. This includes the crew of the spaceship Bebop, which is made up of Spike Spiegel, a former hitman with a dark past, and Jet Black, a former police officer. Along the way, they're joined by other characters on their missions: the con artist Faye Valentine, the eccentric girl Edward, and a genetically altered dog named In. What a very adorable dog. The crew goes on many bizarre adventures, going to new worlds, chasing criminals, and keeping food on the table. However, things take a dark turn as an enemy from Spike's past, Vicious, is on a vengeful rampage, causing Spike to take matters into his own hands and face him head on. Cowboy Bebop has all the makings of a great gateway anime: bounty hunting anti-heroes, interplanetary spaceships, and ramen, because there is a lot of ramen. The anime is in true definition of the term a cult classic that has attracted countless tributes over the years. Its flashy animation style and bombastic score, which blends effortlessly the styles of bossa nova, blues, opera, and jazz, has even birthed an entire subgenre of chill pop on YouTube. Hell, there's even a lo-fi bebop themed mix with 5 million views, and that's really crazy. At first glance, the series doesn't seem much different than the other beloved anime of the 90s and 2000s, but peel away the technologically modified superhuman clowns, religious cult leaders, eco-terrorists, wielding genetic viruses, and a psychopathic killer in the body of a child. Yes, this does happen. You find a group of misfits whose lives aren't too dissimilar to our own. Sometimes moving to a new city can feel like outer space, and starting life afresh can feel overwhelming, if not isolating. For me, Cowboy Bebop articulated instances in my life that I have failed to see expressed authentically elsewhere, namely the loneliness you experience as a young adult, navigating relationships, friendships, new jobs, paying bills, and generally looking after yourself. And what is early adult life if not navigating through and learning to cope with the childhood traumas carried on from our youth? The show is essentially an exploration of existential angst. Its message is that it's okay to feel lonely sometimes, and even though no one can solve your issues but yourself, friendship and adventure can add new, unexplored meaning to your life, and we see that in Cowboy Bebop. Ignoring its intergalactic setting, the characters aboard the Bebop are very human. They're very true to reality. They're navigating the present but saddled with their past. Both Spike and Jet are heartbroken from their previous relationships. Spike has planned to run away with his love Julia to escape a dangerous crime syndicate, which she was previously a part of, while Jet, a former member of the Intersolar System Police, was previously in a long-term relationship with a girl named Alyssa. Both were abandoned. Despite both characters being longtime friends, they struggle to vocalize their feelings to one another, instead opting to shut off their emotions and drink the pain away. Considering the time of the show's release in the late 1990s, Bebop touched on themes of men's mental health and the stigma attached to asking for help, long before the topic had entered into the mainstream discourse of film and TV, and that is really fascinating. This anime was ahead of its time, and I'm happy it's getting the recognition it deserves. In contrast, Faith's trauma stems from her inability to remember the past. At the beginning of the show, she's awoken from a 54-year-long cryogenic sleep by a scientist who tricks Faye into taking on his debts, which understandably results in a host of trust and behavior issues, only forming relationships with others under the influence of alcohol, living by the mantra, leave before being abandoned. And scared for her growing attachment to Spike, she runs away from the Bebop mid-series, only to be found by Jet later on. What's important to note is that Watanabe does not sugarcoat these adult issues of heartbreak and abandonment, instead choosing to display them in all their stone-cold honest glory. Our protagonists are not presented as perfect people who have their shit together, nor deeply troubled beyond redemption. They're apathetic and lazy. They spend most of their downtime lounging, watching TV, eating a shit ton of ramen, or sleeping, but Watanabe does not punish these characters for this behavior. By the end of the series, we see these characters begin to break down their emotional barriers. In the final episode, Spike leaves the Bebop to face his former crime syndicate, the Red Dragon. He asks Jet to cook him food one last time, and they laugh as he tells the story of his life as if it were some big fairy tale. Faye finally opens up to Spike, mentioning how he and Jet are her only family. The final is admittedly bittersweet, but so is the nature of friendship. The show ends with the words, "You gotta carry this weight." And whether Watanabe is referring to our past traumas, the importance of friendship, or just simply the legacy of the show, it's a mantra that sticks with you for a long time afterwards. Bebop may take place in fantastical locations, but every character is grounded in human emotion. That's one of the driving forces behind its legend, and why that legend has grown exponentially in the last 20 years. I also suck at math, so I'm not really good at calculating how many years. American showrunners and film directors would do well to follow and use Bebop as an inspiration for future works. Some of the lessons are obvious. Create a compelling and emotional backstory for your stars. Don't feel pressure to do more than the story allows. And don't let your more amusing side characters degenerate into a Jar Jar Binks level of clownery, or just don't create a character like Jar Jar Binks, because holy fuck. Cowboy Bebop may not have invented these rules, but it did reaffirm them, reminding audiences that there was a place for both adult subject matter and real human stories in animation. Today, Cowboy Bebop is still considered a watermark for crossover anime, and with a current live-action TV series on Netflix, audiences will continue to return to the source material, whether or not the show is good. And that's great, and I'm happy that this is happening. There is a reason people keep rediscovering and rewatching Cowboy Bebop over and over again. This show has aged well. Its warmth and romanticism doesn't feel cheesy or cliche. Its violence is mildly shocking for a cartoon, and its 26 episodes are perfectly paced. And most notably, its sense of adventure still feels new and exhilarating.